Good morning, and welcome to SantaCruzVoice.com and Bettina's Buzz. I'm Bettina McBee. Thank you very much for listening this Saturday, the last Saturday in March, and in continuation of celebrating Women's History Month, I am honored and thankful to have a guest calling in to me and to us this morning, Paige Bradley, renowned artist, wonderful friend, and we have a deep history together. But the main thing I want to tell all of you is that Paige is an amazing, sensitive artist, and I'm thrilled to have her with us this morning. Good morning, Paige.
Good morning, Bettina. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is great. And it's nice to hear from you after so many years.
So tell us where you're calling from.
I'm from in the East Coast right now. I'm living in Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm actually today in Plymouth, Massachusetts, but I am just all over right now, mostly on the East Coast. But I still work with my galleries in California and my foundry up in Berkeley.
Well, let me share with our listeners. Paige and I met many years ago. She was a very young, well, I was a young woman too then, but she was much younger than I. And I met her, and her talent stood out then, even then as me being a new artist model. We met back in the day in Carmel in Susan Long's class, we were remembering.
Yeah, I was it was a drawing class, I remember, and it was Bettina was one of the best models I've ever seen in
Oh,
my life.
stop. Thank you.
And no, she just had this amazing sensitivity and sweetness, and I was really taken by the work we could create together. And I, from the age of 9, knew I was going to be, a figurative artist from very young. So I was always chasing that. And I think I was probably like 18 or something when I took the drawing class and met her. So I was young before it was college, I think, and we had some great creative moments together.
Well, even with you saying, Paige, you grew up in Carmel Valley, and you've expressed that at a very young age you were drawn to art and were already establishing your goals. What was the motivation, do you think, for that at that young age?
It's a great story, really. I lived on top of a mountaintop in Carmel Valley, Los Robles grade, for those of you who know the area, and Uh, even the local bus wouldn't go up on that hill. It was very isolating. There was no kids in the neighborhood. I was an only child. My parents kind of did their thing. It was really, really alone. And there, I wasn't lonely, but I was alone. And we had a couple dogs, and we had no television. And my entertainment was drawing. So I would draw my imaginary friends. I couldn't even come to the dinner table if I hadn't finished like drawing the other eye of the portrait or something like that. I had to, make them whole, as they were, not real to me and not really imaginary friends, but they were so important. They were such an outlet of connection for me that I
Hmm.
didn't have anywhere else. So when my mom, who was an educator for many years in Marina, she kind of knew that I was definitely going to be an artist. And she said, well, let me show you in Carmel and take you down to the art galleries. And I was 9 at the time, and I had been drawing for years. And when I looked in the window of a gallery on San Carlos, and I saw a bronze, highly polished figurative dancer in the window, I said, oh my gosh, I can do that. I know I can. I just don't know how. I need somebody to teach me.
Well, that's even a
So,
wonderful thought that you and your confidence knew once you learned how to do that, you could do it.
yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like, maybe once upon another lifetime, I had those skills, or I coveted that kind of art, or there was something in me that just knew that that was my pathway, my destiny, in a way, and I listened to it, and so and luckily I had a mom who also did and didn't shy away from it. She was not afraid if her daughter was going to be an artist. uh, as many parents are probably like, oh, well, how are you going to make a living as well? But
She
she said,
encouraged
just
your
go for it.
she encouraged your
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah. If you're all in on something, I think the world will find a way. The universe will, give you gifts for being true to yourself as you progress. And I really believe that. So, yeah, at 10, I did my first nude model drawing sessions. And she had to sign off to allow me to do it, but, and it was a eye-opening experience to see a nude model standing in front of the room at 10 years old. But I really became a student of anatomy and light and form and composition and all of that.
Well,
And
it is a necessary art models are a necessary tool, even if you want to speak that way of it, to an artist. As an art
I believe
model,
that.
I've been told that classes have been told to remember that though we are a human form, we are something to approach as you would a ball or a box or an item to be seen and
Yeah. And I also feel like if we're going to speak to each other, the human condition, the human body is a great way to do it because everybody has one. So everybody can empathize. But I think even if you're an abstract artist, you should start somewhere like that, understanding, anatomy and then leaving that if you need to. But it's a
well,
great
the
starting
human
point for
form
sure.
is in abstraction, so we
Yep.
can see it in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. So yeah, I think I was about 17 when I was at Monterey High School, and the local foundry ran a competition where they said, if anybody wants to create a bronze, all they need to any art student, at any of the high schools locally, all they have to do is create 1 pound a sculpture in under a pound of wax, and a professional artist will come judge all of the different wax sculptures, and one of them will be bronzed. And I was lucky enough to be one of the one that got bronzed.
Mhm.
And so at 17, working with the local Monterey Sculpture Center foundry, I never really left them. They were always my foundry after that. And they did close, unfortunately, which is a whole nother story. But Sand City has really grown and changed,
Yes.
and so they were extracted from their lot and no longer there. But a lot of the artisans have stayed in the area because they do something specific that's kind of a lost art, whether it's patina or welding or finishing or waxwork or mold making. There's a lot that goes into making a sculpture, and so I still employ a lot of those people.
And you're to give a label, if we will, to you. You're renowned in your figurative art. You're a master at the figure.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like the figure has called my name. I feel like uh, I'm getting looser in my style as any artist does as they get older. They trust more with the process. They don't have to be so regimented, accurate, realistic. There's more expressionistic aspects that are coming in. There's things that maybe the eye can't see in real physical life, but you could feel in your heart. And I'm trying to capture those in sculpture now. For example, like probably my best known work is Expansion, and that was a piece that I created when I moved to New York City in 2004.
Which is extremely gorgeous. And listeners, of course, you can go online and look up Paige Bradley's art and see. It's a wonderful sculpture. Tell us the
Thank
story
you.
again of it. And
Okay. In fact, it's actually at Classic Art Gallery right now in Carmel.
yes, it
And
is.
also Chloe Fine Art Gallery in San Francisco has some smaller versions of the piece as well. So um, it is in several of my locations of my galleries. But yes, the story is a fun one, I think, to tell because there's so many interpretations to it. But I did a kind of a life planning workshop in Monterey and realized that I wouldn't be happy unless I moved to New York City because I felt like as beautiful and wonderful and giving Carmel is, it still kind of had a low ceiling for my dreams. So I felt like I needed to go to New York City just to see if I could, grow or be big with the other big names and big name galleries and be more international. And so I left, and it was, mind blowing, dizzying, much, much bigger and faster than I think I ever anticipated. And but I wasn't afraid. I just needed to figure out where I would be. And I thought being good at my skill was going to be enough. But in New York City, that's not the case. You have to be a visionary, and you can't just be good. You have to do something that nobody else has ever done before. And I was pondering this one sculpture that I had been creating a really long time, that was a woman sitting in a lotus position, yoga, because I was doing a lot of yoga at the time. And I was using myself as the model mostly. And it was almost a life-size figure. And it was in wax in my studio in Brooklyn. And I had felt that, there was something more that needed to be said, but it was accurate. It was anatomically correct. I put words on the surface, and I was really feeling like I was pushing the envelope of the figure, but there was still something more. So I said, I want to see if I can make the soul come out. And I have this idea to light it from within, but nobody's going to believe me. So I just picked up the wax and I dropped it on the ground intentionally, just to try to expand it beyond our self, our shell, our form. And the pieces of wax went shooting everywhere all around my studio. And I gathered them up, I put them in a box, and I shipped them back to my foundry. And I said, trust me, please cast all these pieces. And then we put them back together again with a little bit of cracks in between each piece. And we put a big giant halogen light bulb on the inside. And I took it down to the waterfront in Brooklyn for a big show called Project Glow. And I turned it on and with a generator out there, and it completely lit up. It was everything I had ever dreamed it to be. It was so much more because the light was coming out of the cracks and really shining and reflecting in the East River. And it was really cool. But I had completely forgot to bring a camera or anything to document the moment. And all of a sudden a busload of photography students show up and unload 15, 20 students, and they all start taking pictures. And we exchanged phone numbers and email addresses and stuff at the time. And in 2004, there wasn't really an iPhone. So
Right.
My BlackBerry wasn't taking
It was something that was meant to be. That's what it sounds like.
It was wild. And the generator died right after we got a bunch of photos, and the lights went out, and that was it. It was only 20 minutes. So I was lucky that photo ended up on the internet and became viral, because I've gotten letters since from many people that image has meant a lot to them over the years. So it's wonderful.
And you shared with me people have come to the sculpture groups and had meetings or prayer meetings there?
Yeah, people have traveled. I knew a woman who traveled from the Midwest to Santa Fe, where I had a heroic size piece. It meant a lot to her. She had a sad story, but she lost somebody for PTSD, and she felt like, she said to me, she said, broken things were ugly once, and now I find them beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, there was just so much power in what people saw in it that I could have never created myself. I have a theory that the artist is in their studio all by themselves, alone, putting out there kind of what they see, but it's not whole, it's not complete until the viewer comes and then is able to kind of complete the circle and say, this is what it means to me. And only then art really becomes transcendent and really speaks, because it has to communicate. And it can't just be one person. It's got to be two people having that conversation. And that's where I think the power of art is. It's fantastic that so many people have had their own stories with that particular piece. I kind of feel like it's not mine anymore.
Well, even in that and looking at your work, it transcends for all of us, as you're stating, and of course art has meaning for all of us, and your piece expansion with the light coming through, it also gives a sense of hope and inner strength that's within us, in our meditation or in that pose of the lotus. At least that's how I feel. And I know a lot of people, as you're saying, have felt that way, and you're able to capture that.
Yeah, thank you. I really just feel like I have to be honest about myself and my own journey. And it's not the journey I expected to take, but it's a blessed journey. And maybe once upon a time I was kind of a control freak, and I thought, well, this is going to be my journey. And how exciting is that? Not really, if you've already spilled it all out. So I let kind of chaos come in, and I let the wind take me a little bit here and there. And I've traveled places I never even imagined I'd go to, all because I let chance and the universe sort of point me the direction I need to go. And in that, I've been able to create things that maybe weren't something I thought I'd ever do, and speak to people I never thought I'd be able to connect with. And it's just been an incredible journey. It was really like amazing a couple of years ago when a big hotel, big resort in Vietnam reached out to me and said, we find your work amazing. You're famous in Vietnam, and we want a 12-foot monument in front of our hotel of your work that's made just for us. And I was like, really? Okay. That's
amazing.
Fun.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. I mean,
yeah,
from 18, when I met you when you were 18, look at all these amazing things you've created. Okay, Paige, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Bettina's Buzz.
Thank you.
When you need help escaping from an abusive relationship, call on the angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help you. Whether you or a loved one needs legal protection from an abusive spouse, cohabitant, or neighbor, I will help you. I have over 7 years' experience working as a lawyer protecting others from abusive relationships.
Stop the abuse now. Call on the angel, attorney Angel L. Hess at santacruzlegal.net.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. So at Treehouse, we use it to build community. Hello, I'm Jenna from Treehouse Dispensary in SoCal. In addition to the finest cannabis products, Treehouse dispenses information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Though we aren't medical professionals, we do know how cannabis science can help you. Listen to Carly.
Thanks, Jenna. For those who would like a cannabis flower that picks you up, stimulates your creativity, and makes you feel happy, Treehouse suggests the sativa varietal Banjo from the local growers at Coastal Sun. Banjo will pick up your day right away.
To learn how to use cannabis for the best effect, just ask us, your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive in SoCal. You must be 21, but no appointment is necessary, and the information is free. And for those who already know what they want, Treehouse has an online ordering option at ourtreehouse.io and drive-through pickup. We look forward to welcoming you to our Treehouse community.
Hello, I'm Carolyn. 25 years ago, my husband Rudy and I opened Charlie Hong Kong with the commitment to serve healthy food grown in healthy soil. Today, the healthy food we serve comes from the sacred land in Pajaro Valley, where Dick Peugeot and his Lakeside Organics grow the soil, and the soil grows the healthy plant that we serve to you. When you eat at Charlie Hong Kong, you eat healthy food, and it's delicious. Charlie Hong Kong, Santa Cruz.
You're listening to Bettina's Buzz. I'm Bettina McBee here on santacruzvoice.com. And with me on the line, good friend and fantastic artist, Paige Bradley. Hi, Paige.
Hi, Bettina.
So we were last talking about you've talking about the different places that you've traveled, and you were speaking on Vietnam and how you were reached out to for a commissioned art piece. Where else have you ventured to?
I had a gallery for several years in Singapore, and did some solo shows there. And I also had a show in Austria, and I've lived in London for 8 years.
You're a dual
Never thought I
citizen,
was
you
going to
told
do
me,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah. My whole family and I have passports for the UK because we lived there long enough. So, yeah, that was a surprise too. Never something I planned, but I had a great studio there, and I met lots of amazing painters and other video artists and things like that. It was really a neat community that I was part of.
And your educational background, you attended Pepperdine?
Yes. So when I graduated Monterey High School, I got a wonderful scholarship at Pepperdine University, something that would have never been possible without my art, actually, because I did the advanced placement program and was able to place, turn their heads, get interest, and they wanted to beef up their art department. So they gave me a nice scholarship. I was, with my mom being a teacher and single mom, we didn't have the money to really get to college. So this was a really amazing experience for me, and I was very blessed. Pepperdine is great. I had a great experience, especially in the liberal arts. But the art department did not allow nude models. And you being a nude model, you can really appreciate this. And what we were talking about earlier is I really felt like it was that foundation for me being a figurative artist that I had to have. And I thought it was ironic that the sports medicine department could work on cadavers who were not clothed, but we couldn't work on live models. So the teacher would stand up and on the model stand, in his work clothes, but then he couldn't be behind us instructing us. So it felt like it was really a difficult situation my freshman year there. So my sophomore year, I went with their international program, and I lived in Florence for the entire year with 45 other students in a villa, and that was an indescribable experience, a positive experience. And I was telling you earlier that I would basically chase Michelangelo's ghost around everywhere I could find him because I had such regard for who he was and his work and his journey through his different ways of working and what he had to do, how he had to become a painter of the Sistine Chapel, even though he knew he was a sculptor, and all of these wonderful things that I learned and I felt in the streets of Florence. So when I came back, I was supposed to go straight back to Pepperdine, but they still did not allow nude models. And I was writing the dean of students and the president of the school every week about changing their policy.
A rebel there at Pepperdine.
Well, I felt like if they had wanted me to help their art department, that was kind of my duty, to have them see the error of their ways. But they just weren't ready. For religious reasons, they just didn't feel ready. I think it wasn't until 1980 that they even allowed dancing. So, they take their time with whatever they feel ready with, and I honor that. But I just felt that it was that year that the Pope had decided to take the loincloths off the painting of the Sistine Chapel when they were redoing it. So I thought, well, if it's okay for the Pope, it should be okay for Pepperdine.
It should be okay for us. Well, where did you go draw then, Paige, so you could do figure drawing with Pepperdine?
Yeah. Well, when I was living in Florence, I would go down to the Florence Academy at night, and I'd draw down with a bunch of amazing artists down at the Florence Academy, which now is very famous for their figure drawing. And when I returned, that's when, I spent some time in the drawing classes in Carmel, and I also started an apprenticeship that lasted on and off for 10 years. And that was a big eye opener. I learned a lot and got into the professional world of the art business very quickly by being an apprentice for a professional. So that was really intense and all in all, a good experience for learning what I wanted to do.
And it was around in that period where we worked on a piece together.
Yes, we did. Yes, I had a small studio inside that studio, and you and I worked there. And I wanted to create a piece that had stretchy fabric around the model because I wanted to create the invisible binds and confines that we feel on our heart and our soul that you can't see but are so real. And a lot of it had to do with something that Michelangelo said. He actually said every human emotion can be portrayed through the human body. But that was like, 500-600 years ago that he said that. And his creativity was really limited so much by the church. And I felt like we're so blessed as creators now because we can literally create anything that comes to mind. It's infinite. And I feel like my duty is to really speak to what it's like to be alive today, as a human, as a woman, in this era, as a daughter, as a mother now. But back then I wasn't a mother yet. And I wanted to talk about the pushes and pulls on us that are cross traffic, the things that kind of pull us to the side. And we still have to remember what our goals and dreams are and keep on trudging forward and not let anything kind of sideswipe us or pull us to the side off our path. And that's what clarity was for me. And that was you that modeled for that. And it turned out really nice because it really embodied the emotion of what I was trying to say. And we worked well together and it was a successful work.
Yes, we worked very well together, and I remember my daughter, little Serna, there playing on the side while we worked, and you were always very focused, but you had a theme in mind. And what I remember as I even look at, I'm very fortunate, listeners, to possess a Clarity, one of Paige's pieces. And as a model, that was a time in my life, that whole breaking free, and the fact that you had that stretchy band. I'm here posing in the studio, but that breaking free and coming out of something that you feel confined in, and you really captured something, and it was a time where I could really express something that I felt, and it was always a goal of mine in my art modeling career. I've posed for many fabulous artists, but it was always a goal to be bronze. And so when I look every morning and I have Clarity there for me to see, and can reminisce on our time together, Paige, working, and to see it today standing there proudly. I'm extremely proud to be part of your history as an artist. Just knowing our beginning. And you too, as you mentioned, you are a mother. Speak a little bit on your children.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to go back really quickly before I do, but I think a lot of people don't realize that bronze is going to last, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, who knows years. And it's pretty awesome that, it's that you love, that was your culmination, your apex, to as a model to get into bronze. And I'm so happy.
Well, if you're not bronze, I'm sorry, if you're not bronze, the drawings are all everything's fabulous. I have okay. Yes.
Yeah. So my daughter is 11 and my son is 14. My daughter's going to be 12 next month. They're the joy of my life. They really are. As an artist, I was always struggling with the idea of what it would mean to be a parent. If it's going to affect my art career, is it going to affect my pathway? I have to be an artist first and foremost. I was very much driven and trying to control my path, my destiny so much. But I'm really happy that I met a man in New York and I fell in love with him. And he said, "I'm sorry, we have to have 2 kids." And I was like, okay. And lo and behold, it's been the greatest creation I've ever done. I mean, I can't really take credit, but they
take the credit. Yes, you can.
my best friends as well. We all hang out together. We love each other's company. We're constantly learning from each other. And they take us on journeys we would normally never go on at all. They keep life interesting. And my daughter's really become my muse in a lot. I've sculpted both my kids.
Yes, I was going to say your sculptures of your children are wonderful and
thank you.
Filled with so much love. And your sculpture, The Gift, so beautiful. I was looking at that this morning, Paige. It's Paige holding, is it your daughter?
Well, actually, that was done when you and I were working together.
Oh,
back in the day, I had a friend who, who had a baby, and I didn't have my baby yet, and she was just sort of kind of left to care for this baby, by herself. As a mom, sometimes feels like the weight is all on her, especially when the baby's young. You have to nurse the baby, you have to feed the baby, you have to keep the baby alive, you have to nurse the baby, you have to make sure the baby doesn't fall off the bed. You have to do so much, and you don't even realize all this stuff is time. And I remember bringing home my son. My kids were born in London, and bringing home my son from the hospital the very first day, and I had to give him a bath, and I had to feed him, and I had to dress him, and I had to powder his bottom and do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that's 4 hours. How in the world am I supposed to do this every single day of his life? I mean, I just can't imagine. And now he's like barely, in my world, and I'm begging for him to come back and give me a hug once in a while. It happens so fast. They grow up and they don't need you very quickly. So yeah, at 14, he's already, I'm fine, Mom. My day was fine. I'll see you later. Bye.
And he's a soccer player. He's a champion.
Yeah, that was my sculpture I made of him was called Champion, and he was little, but he really knew from a super young age what he wanted to be. And since I also felt, had the same happen to me, I believe him, and we're going back to London for him. Yeah. So this is a big moment. I'm taking his dream and running with it.
And your daughter's an amazing athlete as well.
Yes, she's a Ninja Warrior. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's on TV, American Ninja Warrior, and it's like obstacle course racing. So she's pretty incredible with her upper body strength, and that's why we're actually in Massachusetts today for a big competition. So yeah, they keep me busy for sure.
And what are some of you'll be moving to London soon, so the preparation of that, what goes into that? You're closing down a studio and transporting things, works, and
yeah. So I'm going to start. I just took a amazing painting workshop with a guy in Brooklyn named Casey Ball, and we worked a lot on some portrait oil paintings and stuff like that. But I have a whole series of works in my mind that I want to do of oil paintings, and it's going to be easier for a little while to just carry my easel with me and paint. My daughter and I have done that over the past summers, but we've done watercolor, plein air, and it's been a lot of fun. But sculpture's always in my life. It's just this. There's seasons where I have big studios. The last one I had here in Connecticut was 2,000 square feet, maybe a little more, and it was huge. I could have big parties there, and I could have gallery events and collectors over, and it was just an amazing time. I never did do workshops there, but I probably could have. It was really big. So the next big studio, I probably will do something like that. But I'm not one of those blessed artists that gets to have the same studio for 40, 50 years and never moves and can really, layer it on. But instead, I'm the artist that has to pick up and reinvent herself, every decade. And I don't mind that either, because I get to see the world, and it keeps my work fresh and it keeps me fresh. So
reinvention is good.
Yeah. And not controlling things so much, right? And just allowing the freedom to take me where I need to go. Yeah. Trust. As my friend told me. Yeah. Just trust the world, trust the universe, and trust the process.
There's a lot to be said for that. Just trusting, if you keep the good things in motion, that good things are going to continue to come. Like us together after all these years. I haven't seen you in so long, but you're coming here in April, you said. So I'm going to hope to see you. Yes. Okay, Paige, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back on Bettina's Buzz.
Time to eat and talk business. Chef Ben here from the Back Nine Grill and Bar, inviting you to talk business over a leisurely lunch or a formal dinner or maybe a quick libation. The Back Nine is the easiest place to get to in Santa Cruz County. Easy off the Pasatiempo exit with ample parking and great food. The Back Nine is the place to meet for business, and great food. Time to eat and talk business. See you at the 9.
For ag and industrial real estate, call Chuck Allen. Chuck Allen is a lifelong resident of the Pajaro Valley, a friend of everybody, and has closed so many real estate transactions, the Wall Street Journal and Keller Williams both list him as one of the nation's top producers. So for ag and industrial real estate, call the top realtor, Chuck Allen, at chuckallenproperties.com. chuckallenproperties.com.
Here's my story. I take 8 different prescribed drugs daily. At $5 a copay, that's about $40 a month. Now I spend just $19.95 a month and save, well, you can figure it out.
90% of all prescriptions are covered. Check for yours at monthlyfeerx.com. Never again overpay for your meds. Monthlyfeerx.com. Get all your meds for one small monthly fee, rx.com.
Here's my story. I take 8 different prescribed drugs daily. At $5 a copay, that's about $40 a month. Now I spend just $19.95 a month and save, well, you can figure it out.
90% of all prescriptions are covered. Check for yours at monthlyfeerx.com. Never again overpay for your meds. Monthlyfeerx.com. Get all your meds for one small monthly fee, rx.com.
You never get a second chance to make a good first impression.
You're listening to Bettina's Buzz here on SantaCruzVoice.com. And with me on the line is Paige Bradley. Hi, Paige.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you again for being with us and sharing stories of your history, amazing history, which is far from over. I don't mean to imply that it's over. But in your history of inspiring, we're going to focus on women, okay, in this, since it's the last day in terms of celebrating Women's History Month. How does it feel, Paige, to know that you've inspired women with your creativity?
I didn't set out to do it. I just set out to tell my story, honestly. If I make somebody feel something, then that's just icing on the cake, and I'm really happy. I sometimes tell people that my solo shows are not how much money I make, how many sculptures I sell, but how many tears are shed, how many goosebumps are felt. And I think that's, from what I've seen, it's really nice sometimes to get out of the studio and hear these dancers, these mothers, these women come up to me and say, "You're telling my story right now. I don't think you realize it, but I feel like you really have understood me in a way that nobody else could." And I didn't set out knowing I was going to do that, but boy, it's been amazing that artwork can do that for other people. And I have a quick story. One of my first shows down in Laguna Beach, a woman came up and asked me she said, "I just bought the sculpture Spring, which, what does it mean to you?" She asked. And I said, "Well, spring, it's the time we are in now. It's the culmination, the tulips coming up. It's a rising. It's coming to realize your potential. It's the harbinger. It's everything new and realizing that you have wings and you can pop up and soar, And she said, "Well, would you like to know what it means to me?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "It's my remission from cancer." Oh. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so intense. And I will never, ever go first again when somebody asks me what something means. Because these women have such heavy burdens sometimes, and they hide them deep away underneath this facade. And they are so good at smiling and looking good all the time that we have to remember to, give each other warm hugs or meet each other in the eyes and say, "I understand. You're not alone. I'm connected with you. I feel you," So if my work can do anything, I just hope it can do that.
When you talked about expansion and you yourself practice yoga, why the lotus pose for you?
Yeah, I guess it felt like I had just moved to New York City, and gosh, it was such a busy place. I felt like my head was spinning constantly on the first few weeks I was there. I felt like I crossed the street because I'd get hit by a car because my brain was too busy thinking about the millions of things I saw or heard or what I had to do next. And that was a very centering pose, a quiet one, a really quiet one. And then with the shattering of the surface of the sculpture, the breaking open of it no longer was quiet, and it was, it expanded. It was also, I felt like it was this small girl from Carmel, California, who thought she was just the container she was in, but then she decided she was going to get bigger and not be just the container she was in, that she was bigger than that. And I know that there's so many other people out there that probably feel that way too. Or maybe there was something in me that felt like somebody, had harmed me, or I was a little broken along the way. I mean, everybody has heartbreak or something like that happens. And then I could turn the heartbreak into something beautiful, something light and mine and powerful. So anyway, there's a lot of different meanings and thoughts to that particular piece and that pose. Yeah.
And the process of creating a bronze is an extremely physical activity. And in reading through some of the interviews and preparing for you to be my guest this morning, you yourself has said, you see your piece die and grow again and change. So in that process, it's...
the lost wax method and the foundry process is definitely one where it's a bit violent. You have to destroy in order to create, for sure. Yeah.
I've taken a sculpture class at MPC. I've taken Gary's class, so I'm learning obviously a little bit more on what it is to, because that's the art medium that in my years of being around artists that I always wanted to explore sculpture. So I've had that opportunity, and it's quite physical and quite demanding. And I just made little pieces.
Yeah, there's times where, I have to ice my arm. I mean, I used to be a tennis player, but my worst tennis elbow is definitely from sculpting and sculpture, and I remember pulling a wire with some pliers, and the pliers slipped off the wire and hit me in the tooth and cracked my tooth. And I've been bleeding and, cut many times. I've had many stitches. But you can't be afraid. It's so physical. It's so wonderful. It feels like, you don't sit down to sculpt. It's a very, very all body kind of experience, It's so fun.
Is it a male dominated field?
I don't know if it is anymore, but I've had letters from people in other countries, especially the Arab countries, where they say that they're the only female that's a sculptor. And, but I wouldn't say in America that's true. And I wouldn't even say in Britain that's true. Or maybe most of Europe, but I definitely think that is true elsewhere. I know that, that it's very important to have 50-50 in artists. We think we know what it feels like to be the opposite sex, but really we're only under our skin and we can tell only our story. So I think when a man sculpts a woman, it's from an outside looking at us, not from the inside. And likewise, when I'm sculpting a man, I probably don't know what it feels like to be under his skin as much as I try. I'm looking at him, I guess, more objectively when I sculpt a man, even though I feel like we're all humans. We all have souls and feelings and emotions, and I'm trying to hatch each one as in my sculptures, I do feel like I can honestly speak what it feels like to be under my skin. So maybe as a woman, my female sculptures are probably, really true as far as it comes to the journey of the woman.
Do you think that growing up in Carmel Valley without a television and you only had your mind, as in Paige only really had Paige to entertain yourself a lot, and of course the influence of your mother when she was there, but in your growing up, do you ever feel that was an advantage?
I do, definitely. And I don't know if there's ever going to be that for the new generations, the same kind of experience. You look at certain people that are old now who are passing away, like maybe a Holocaust victim who actually lived through the Holocaust and told a story. You say, wow, you'll never get somebody like that again, because there won't be somebody that can tell that story. Or you see somebody like Clint Eastwood, let's say, on a more positive note, where you say, wow, there'll never be another Clint Eastwood, like that kind of personality who's been able to see that kind of vision, who's taken it, all we touch and all we see is all our life will ever be, according to Pink Floyd. And I really think that's true. I really feel like because I had beginnings that were not with technology around me, that I was able to turn inward and turn to my own self and be able to tell my own stories. And I got pretty good at listening to myself, and I still am. I'm not afraid of being alone and in the quiet.
As it goes quiet.
You did that on purpose.
Yes, I did. So we want to give a special hello to your mom, Terry, who's listening in Carmel. Hi, Terry. I wanted to say a special hello to you and mothers. I want to say a hello to my mom, Gloria. She's listening, Paige. She remembers you back in the day, of course. And what...
Serna.
In Cerna, she's at the track meet. It's the 54th Pacific Grove Rotary Invitational, and she's got 8 of her male athletes, which it's an invitational, so you have to be invited. So these Spartans were invited, and I'll be heading there right after the show at noon. So you'll be watching your daughter compete, and I'll be watching my daughter's team compete. So in the little time we have left, Paige, you want to give any special acknowledgments?
Well, I would love to thank Chloe Art Gallery for doing a Women's Month show on my works in that in San Francisco. And I want to thank Classic Gallery for being my first gallery and to always standing by me till the end. That they're still there doing it, and they've got my work in the window. I want to thank DACA Gallery in East Village, who's doing a woman's show as well, and my pieces in the window there. And that's New York City, and many other galleries that are supporting the arts. I know it's not easy times right now, and the artists are. Got to keep fueling the fires, keep creating, because that's what makes the world go round. I really want to thank you, Bettina, and Santa Cruz Voice for having me on. I think it's wonderful that you guys are, specializing in bringing the forefront of the people that in your Rolodex and talking about all of these really amazing people that you have come across. I've heard some of them and I really love it. The creatives as well as all the other interesting people. Carmel and Monterey Peninsula and Santa Cruz is filled with so many incredible people.
What's some of your fun memories of Santa Cruz?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the boardwalk growing up, but my best friend lives there. And so when I think of Santa Cruz, I always think of her first and, riding horses with her and things like that. But the beach, the Crow's Nest, certain great restaurants. And then I went to Costa Noa one week with my mom, and we got to see the elephant seals, and it was just amazing experiences there. It's beauty like no other. And Half Moon Bay, all of that. I had a gallery in Half Moon Bay actually, and the whole coast from that whole bay is just breathtaking.
It is a breathtaking place, and for those of any listeners who haven't been here, you can come here in spirit if you're too far away. And one way you can be here is you can Google Paige Bradley's artwork and see what the beauty of this area, the Monterey Peninsula and Carmel, can inspire in a young mind. Your sculpture, your artwork is absolutely wonderful. And Paige, I have to admit, I didn't know you had such beautiful drawings of birds, because my birds and my backyard there, Marina, my mom's backyard is my sanctuary, and the birds come and I feed them seeds. And you have beautiful drawings of
Yeah.
birds.
They're watercolors, and I did some prints, and we sell the prints framed, and they're really fun. I have a couple in my house as well. But yeah, if you want to see more, it's Paige Bradley Sculpture on Instagram, Paige, Paige Bradley Sculpture, and I am going to release a book in May. So we're about to do some pre-selling on that. So I'm really excited about that too. It'll be my first hardcover book.
Congratulations! That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very excited for this opportunity with you, Bettina. I mean, we go back so many years, and you've been such an important part of all the arts in all the artists, that you modeled for. We all have a little bit of Bettina.
Well, the artist community on this entire peninsula, I'll just say, from fine artists to fashion designers, the different talents that I've worked with. There's just so much talent on this peninsula, and I'm very lucky to have been able to work with such talented people. And of course, Paige, you being one of the foremost of those most talented people, and so easy to work with. And again, for an old artist model to be able to look on her dresser and see my hard work. I mean, that was a lot of hard work, not so much working with you, but just the years and the patience and the students and the classrooms of talent. But I have a wonderful collection, and I want to thank you again, Paige, for taking the time to be with us. And listeners, if you're here in the area and you're in Carmel, go to Classic Art Gallery and explore Paige's work and touch it and feel it. The gallery personnel are always so kind and so welcoming to show off all the artists' work that they represent in the gallery. And Paige, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope the rest of your day is just wonderful. Again,
thank you, you too.
My love to you, and you keep up the wonderful work and inspiring people and being a fantastic mother. Because as a mother of an athlete, I believe athletics are they're a different form of art. It's a different mindset. It's a different focus. So congratulations, Paige, on that. And
you too.
And we'll be keeping.
It's great to be a mother and a daughter, isn't it?
It is. It's very great. It's. I wouldn't have it any other way, and
exactly.
And it's truly your love of being a mother is truly reflective in your artwork of your children. And as a mother, that's very easy to see the love there, both in your children and what you've portrayed from them. So, again, listeners, I encourage you to look at Paige Bradley's artwork. And we look forward to more wonderful works of art from you, and of course your new book, as you stated. And I want to again thank everyone for listening to Bettina's Buzz and SantaCruzVoice.com. We're quickly approaching the end of my hour. I want to say Happy Easter to everyone out there. I hope you have a wonderful Easter day. And remember to tell other people that you love them. Pray for peace. Go Spartans. A special shout out to them and to Coach Cerna and Coach Dominguez. Thanks for all your hard work with Seaside High and the San Jose Spartans. And Paige, before we go, anything you want to say?
Well, I just want to say thanks. I love listening to your voice. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, everyone,
Paige.
for listening.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great weekend. I will see you next Saturday. It's already going to be April. So, again, have a great day. It's not pouring down rain, which is a good thing. We've had a lot of rain lately, but so far so good. No rain. The sun's shining bright. So again, have a great day. Bye.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jacoby.
Hello, Miss Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am well. Happy early Easter.
Happy Easter. Where are you with the Easter celebration?
Well, first of all, when I left Chula today, it was spring. And it was just lovely. And I get here in Santa Cruz, and it's like winter again.
No, it's so cold here.
But, no, what I do, and I've done this every year at Easter, I try to find the Easter eggs I'd hidden 30 years ago.
Oh, good.
I can't find them. I'm pretty sure they're not in Alabama.
Yeah.
There aren't any eggs left there. So before I introduce our buddy who's visiting here in the studio, I will tell you, you know how difficult it is to get a doctor's appointment. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get a doctor's appointment. So the other day, I've got a bit of a gammy shoulder, and it's like a Grammy shoulder, but less gray hair. So I called John. I texted him. I said, "Hey, can I come see you in the next half hour or so?" He writes back, "Sure." Wow. And he says, "I'll meet you on the patio."
Shocker.
I said, "Which patio?" And he's at the tip of Argentina.
Oh, I love.
And he said, "Come on down. We can chat."
Love.
But I had an appointment.
Love.
John Clark.
Come on down to Cafe Baccio on the fourth deck.
You are
midship.
Just amazing. Dr. John Clark from Prime Care, and who you get audited a lot. What did you do this time to write it off? I went to Argentina to give a speech on, I don't know, COVID.
I could have, actually, because I could have made the argument. But no, this was actually just pure joy of travel and going to someplace I've never been to.
Is it Tela de Fuego?
Tierra del Fuego.
And it's at the tip of Argentina. I mean, you're not far from Antarctica there, right?
Yeah, it's actually just across the Drake's Passage. When I say just across, it's like a 3-day sail.
Yeah,
but anyways, so we're right down there it's the southernmost... before Antarctica, it's the southernmost kind of part of the landmass you can get to on the Earth.
And did you fly down there or did you cruise down there?
We flew to Santiago, Chile, and went over to Valparaiso. Super cool town there, by the way. And then we kind of went down 3 days. Yeah. The distances are huge down there. Anyways, 3 days down across the Horn, went through the fjords down there, and then went to Ushuaia, which is the kind of southernmost town. And then we kind of skipped back up, seeing the penguins in Argentina, and went to Buenos Aires, where I learned as we were pulling into port that they were having a dengue outbreak there.
A dengue?
Dengue outbreak, yeah. Okay. It's the biggest one they've had for years. I'm going, I'm pretty sure I'm committed to going into Buenos Aires at this point. I don't think I can get off this ship.
Dengue isn't a sexually transmitted deal.
No, it's mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes?
Yeah, mosquitoes.
They can survive that weather down there?
They love Buenos Aires. Actually, as the global warming, down there in Cape Horn, Ushuaia, they're like, we actually have mosquitoes now. We never had it. It used to be too cold down here. Now I have them because of global warming.
That'll be fun for those people to experience malaria.
Yeah, and dengue and all kinds of yellow fever, et cetera, et cetera.
I know what Rachel's question is about to be about the trip.
What?
How was the food?
Yeah, well, I'm curious. Yeah.
There's a lot of it on the cruise ship, like a ton, and actually, it's all really quite good.
But did you eat at a restaurant in Argentina?
I did. Yes.
I mean, great beef down there, right?
It's all beef down there.
Yeah, it's all beef.
If you go to all this, it's all lamb. I had the best lamb I have ever had in my entire life in Punta Madryn, which is halfway up the Argentinian coast. They have these pampas there, which are those huge, just wide open spaces where the only thing that really can survive out there are the sheep, and so they just have these massive kind of groups of sheep that the gauchos kind of look over. And lamb is everywhere. So they put the lamb on a spit and put it over an open fire, and it was delicious.
And Rachel and I don't agree on movies all the time, but we agree on television.
This one time? Well, actually 2 times.
That's 2 times. But there is a marvelous series. Is it on Netflix, the Obama thing that he did on national parks? Have you seen it, John?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's magnificent. He does national parks throughout the world and talks about Patagonia. And that park, I think, is 8,000 miles long or something. It's amazing.
It's a huge country. Yeah. So there's Patagonia down there, but they also have the I think Torres del Paine or something like that, where they're up in the Andes Mountains. They're really spectacular. My daughter's going there actually in a eco lodge and going to go off hiking up into the mountains down there too. So super cool.
Really quick. This is a park. Just speaking of national parks, Carrizo Plain during the super bloom, which I think is happening right now.
Which is
not
where?
Very far. It's about an hour from.
Is this the one in Paso Robles?
It's about an hour from Paso. So what I did last year is, and we went a little late, but the flowers were still incredible. We drove to Carrizo Plain the first day. And then, so that's like a 3.5-4 hour drive maybe. And then we came back to Paso, spent the night in Paso, and then the drive home is only 2.5-3 hours, whatever it is. So, but beautiful.
You went down there last year.
We went there last year. I got all these pictures with my daughter and my wife.
Magnificent.
It is.
I have some pictures of your wife. That is very strange, but that's another story.
With flowers? Wait a minute. But yeah, no. I mean, it is one of those moments in my life where you look over this expanse. You go, that can't be real.
Yeah,
it can't be, and it's unbelievable.
Like a magazine.
Yeah, and so beautiful.
I know.
Right? Yeah,
it's incredible.
And when is the season?
I think it's right now. Here, I'll get a good timeline on it for you. But the super bloom, well, especially since we've thankfully had 3 good rain years.
Yeah.
You know?
The last 2 weeks.
I mean, the last 3 years have been pretty. And so San Luis Obispo Tribune, we do have, so the super bloom in Carrizo Plain is forthcoming.
Right.
It is forthcoming.
We still have a chance.
We still have a chance. So I would get down
It's
there.
usually like April and something like that. You want to see expanses of lavender, expanses of yellow, expanses of this sort of deep purple, and just all mixed together. It's amazing.
The lupins, and then the hiking is so cool too. They have a couple hiking trails where you can hike to the top of a pretty big incline, and then you get this expansive view of just all kinds of stuff.
Brandon's with us without a microphone. How are you, buddy? Just shout stuff.
I'm doing well.
And you gotta love this. Now John's showing pictures on the air. This is good stuff. You folks at home will enjoy that. Isn't that a wonderful shot?
God.
Show it to the people at home.
Just hold it up to one of these cameras.
They're kind of saying start date is April 6th.
Ooh,
that's
here we
that's
go.
in just a mere. That's my brother's birthday. Maybe I can get him to go down there.
You should.
Absolutely.
You should.
National parks, go.
Amazing.
John Clark, who has been with us, with Rachel and I, in Raising the Standards since the beginning of COVID. Coincidence? I wonder. But so we've been together like 4 years.
Yeah, it has been.
You, of course, have been my personal doctor. The fact that I'm alive, you should deserve an award.
Yeah, well, Pete, it's teamwork, right?
Yeah, you always do look surprised when you see me, though.
Yeah. It's like, you made it to the next visit.
That's right. And the idea, when you go, can I get cash? I go, well, why is that? So what is up in medicine? Let's turn the corner. We're in the 9th inning. We're doing the sports metaphor.
Okay, sports
metaphor. Is it game over on COVID?
I'm going to say yes. So I know that might be a little controversial. Yeah. So it's not like COVID's not around, but COVID is really never COVID-19 is never going to go away. Yeah. So we're kind of done with the whole pandemic, and in fact, I think it was officially declared that we're pretty much over the pandemic part of it. And so now we're endemic rather than pandemic, which means that now the virus is just with us and will be with us, and every year we'll have kind of COVID, and it'll be like influenza and the.
It's just a new strain.
It's just another strain. There's over 100 viruses that can give you a runny nose, sore throat, and a cough. Yeah. So we've been living with them for a long time. So new one came, pandemic. There's now a fair amount of herd immunity. So we're now kind of just chugging along with that being another virus out there. But we, do have immunizations against it. I don't want to trivialize it. If it can be quite serious. But if you're getting vaccinated or if you've had it, you've developed some immunity, it's much less deadly than when it first showed up.
Should you be getting more vaccinations, or?
Such a good question. So the short answer is we don't know. So the somewhat longer answer is that if you've either had it or had a vaccine, you've actually got pretty good immunity. I think if it is going to be something that people are going to get in the future, so a lot of vaccines we just get a series, like when you're a kid you got your polio vaccine series,
right.
And then you were done, and that kind of protects you for life. Where will we be with COVID? Will we get like a COVID series initially, and then we'll be done with it, or will we need kind of ongoing vaccines like flu? Don't know that. I think at the moment the recommendations for vaccine are people who are high risk.
Okay.
So like influenza, we don't recommend this. The CDC says, well, if everybody gets it, then we're protecting everybody, and that's a good argument. argument that you can make. But definitely, if you are a high-risk individual, you should be getting your flu vaccine. Same thing with COVID. If you're a high-risk individual, that would be somebody over 60. If you have got chronic heart or lung problems, if you're obese, immunocompromised, we're saying, definitely get the next booster that may be coming out. But whether that will continue on some sort of a yearly basis, we'll see.
Rachel, you finally got it, didn't you, recently?
I got it in November.
Did you?
Yeah, I got it in November.
COVID or the immunization?
Oh, I got COVID. Yeah. It was weird, too, because what's funny is that this time around, I really didn't know I had it. I thought I had allergies, but I was very foggy. Super foggy.
Brain fog.
Yeah, so foggy. But then it was crazy because I woke up in the morning and I thought, I'm just going to take a test just in case because I just feel so weird. I just felt a little off, but I was convinced it was allergies. Dag nabbit. I mean, those tests are so unforgiving in the sense that when the positive comes up so fast, it's a little bit insulting, Yeah. And I went, oh no.
It's not like a maybe. It's like, oh yeah.
Oh my God. And then what's so weird? I don't know if this is a thing, but for whatever reason, every time I've gotten COVID, it's probably the isolation. I mean, that makes sense, but I get so depressed, like so bummed. And I don't know, it almost feels like a symptom of the illness, but it's probably just a symptom of being so isolated. But I just get bummed.
Or all of the above, right?
Oh my God.
Now, when you wake up and your first question is, do I live on a bench in a park? Do you consider that foggy?
That's
That's
where
pretty
am
foggy.
I? That's
where am I?
Where am I?
That
would be confusing.
That's a sign.
How long did that fogginess last?
Okay, good question. So probably
I'm going to guess 3 months, Brandon.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It took me 10 days to test negative. And then about day 14, the fogginess started to fade. But I was probably foggy for about 2 weeks.
That's a pretty long time.
Yeah,
that is a long
time. I
time.
just was cruising through it. I mean, but honestly though, what was crazy is the first time I had COVID, I felt terrible. I felt like I got hit by a truck. Like my body was so sore, and I was so fatigued. Like I could barely get to the kitchen. Getting to the restroom was like, oh really? Like it was just a nightmare. But this last time around, no body aches, no fever. I mean, just strange, like kind of nasal symptoms.
Hey, John, you never had it?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, a quarter, fifth of people who get COVID are asymptomatic. That was one of the big problems with that. So people say, I never had COVID. It's like, how do you know? Well, I never got sick. Doesn't mean you haven't had COVID.
That's right.
By the way that you passed it to other people. So that was kind of one of the problems. So not that I know of, and I've tested multiple times when I got runny nose and cough, and I've never tested positive.
Well, and it's funny because how many people do you talk to who go, oh yeah, I was really sick last week, and you go, well, did you have COVID? And then they go, well, I never took a test. I never took a test. And I'm like, and they go, no, I've never had it. And I'm like, well, how do you know if you've never taken
so it was just a flu. It's like,
and everyone around me seems to be sick.
Like, wait, what? I'm a little confused, but I guess it is the flu. I don't know.
Yeah, I was on the plane flight home from Buenos Aires, and you just heard everybody, I'm going like, I am absolutely certain COVID was on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure somebody on the plane probably, there was many viruses that can do that, but probably there was COVID around. So, but the thing is that we're just living with it now. It's just around. It's highly contagious. You're likely, if you haven't had it yet, you're probably going to get it at some point. But, now we've sort of at a point where it's more going to be having a cold or something like that, which I don't want to, minimize. I remember having a cold and being put down for, a week or so, feeling pretty bad. So colds and flus can be, pretty symptomatic, but it's not the killer that it was when it first showed up.
On a scale of 1 to 10, as a country and our healthcare system, how do we handle the whole thing?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
I'm going to guess 2.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. It could be a 2 or 3. It's so interesting, kind of looking back, because on the one hand, we think we learned a lot. So on the one hand, so potentially deadly virus out there, we want to protect each other and not have it go around. So let's, shelter in place and quarantine and all that stuff. So super good to do to kind of protect each other. Having said that, there's these other things that happen when everybody shelters in place, like, shutting down the economy and it's huge recession. And so there's a downside, not going to school, and there's a big downside to that. And then if you, depending on how long you're shut down, depends on how long those negative side effects from that happen. And the whole point of doing that is actually to try to, in theory, develop a immunization that somebody will develop so that we can then get herd immunity, not by having everybody get sick, but herd immunity through immunization. That's the only reason that works. So we as a country, we're terrible at shutting down, but worse than most other countries. And we had much higher rates of people getting COVID and dying from COVID. Right. Having said that, we were also super good about getting a vaccine that really worked. If you look at another example, China, they were extremely good at shutting down, and they really stopped the spread of disease very well. Now that was, centralized government that was, telling people to do this and sort of controlling the population, downsized all that. But anyways, the positive part of that, they were able to shut down. They developed a vaccine that was not very good and was not broadly accepted by their population. So their herd immunity didn't come up particularly well. And then they opened up when people finally said, we can't do this anymore, and they opened it back up. They had a huge surge of infections that actually, caused a lot of illness and death there. So the sweet spot would be shut down hard at the beginning, get a good vaccine, have everybody get it, then open up as soon as you possibly can. And nobody did that well.
And Sweden, in retrospect, was a sensible way to have considered handling it?
Yeah, so a lot of the European countries were much better about the shutting down. And
they did a total lockdown. I know in Italy it was unbelievable.
But, Italy, remember, that's the first big European country where COVID showed up, right, and a lot of people started dying. So I think they had this very, they were watching everybody die around them. So I think that was pretty motivating.
Well, and I think Italy, they really appreciated my situation because I think there's a lot of multi-generational households in Italy.
Right.
And so that was my biggest fear is I was living with a 93-year-old at the time, and I was his caregiver. So it was there's this high pressure, and then you're watching the news and you're reading, and you're thinking, okay, well, if something does happen and he goes into the hospital, I might just never see him again, and I can't visit him. And it was honestly, looking back, it was terrible.
You're not dating the 93. Oh, you're talking about your uncle.
He was honestly, he was my soulmate for sure.
That's true.
He really was.
Here's the thing. Part of what you're saying, I'm hearing, is that I care about him. I really want to protect him and whatnot. So on the one hand, if we shut down, we're protecting each other and stopping it from growing, and that shows a generational caring or whatnot. I had other people, arguing to me during the pandemic, we should just let it ride. Why even shut down? And I said, well, we just let whoever's going to die, and whoever's going to live, and we'll just get herd immunity that way. And I said, well, here's the thing.
Care about life.
Yeah. That's a little bit, that's like a lot big callous. And you're basically refuting the entire reason for my profession to exist. We just don't do that in medicine. We just don't let it ride, because otherwise, why even go to the doctor? Right? It's just let it ride. So we actually care for each other. We actually try to, develop, treatments and things like that. So we just don't do that.
It's interesting too, because I do feel as though there's a lot less of a callousness for babies than there are for the elderly, which I know is kind of like a silly thing, but it's I just remember thinking to myself,
no, that's a good point.
There was a little bit of a callousness. I remember talking to people who were like, well, why are you doing all this stuff? Why are you wiping down your groceries? And I remember kind of being because I don't know what's going on, and I'm terrified. And this is the most important person, one of the most important people in my entire life. So I'm going to do my best, because I'm not going to let it go down in history that I made a mistake and then something happened to him. But it was interesting because honestly, he was such a trooper and such a survivor. He probably would have been fine, but I just wanted to be careful.
Sure.
And he ended up dying of a heart attack on Christmas Day, which is such an interesting, in 2020. So we made it through the meat of the pandemic, but we spent a lot of time together, and we're just like a total old married couple. Yeah. And so we had this really wonderful year together, and then he just exited on Christmas Day. And it was okay, that makes sense. But I always kind of wondered, if people would be treating me the same way about my concern if it was a baby. If this was a disease that was or a virus that was really a life-threatening virus for babies, I feel like we would have a little bit more compassion, because honestly, there were a lot of callous spots.
Well, and you were able to spend, and it was marvelous. You were able to spend that last year together.
Great.
I think it's particularly tragic the people. I mean, here you've lived a long life, and you're looking forward to whatever the years you have left, and all of a sudden you get locked down, and you can't see anybody. You can't see your family, and people spent the last year of their lives like that.
That was my mom.
Yeah.
I saw my mom, it was sort of like December 2019. Yeah. COVID happened, and she's like, she completely locked down, was really afraid of getting it and dying. I said, let me come up and visit. No, nobody can visit. It was actually like a year and a half that I didn't see my mom. I would talk to her on the phone, and she said, I'm so depressed, I'm so down, like just like you're saying. And when I saw her like a year and a half later, my God. It was just like, she got so old. I mean, she just really aged very quickly, and she was much more dour, much more bitter. And it was just like, again, it's a risk benefit. Life has risk. Getting up and driving to work, that's a risk right there. Right. So you have to kind of weigh risks and benefits. And I think that was a little bit of the lesson of COVID was that, the extremes are both unreasonable. The extreme shutdown, extreme, shutting things down and quarantine and everything like that. Well, that has risks, and that really does damage. Extreme, just let it ride. Well, that's also got a lot of, problems too. And so there's a happy medium there. And, I think every country struggled on trying to find that happy medium. I think the United States, with its kind of rugged individualism and small government and thing, they just were more on the let it ride, and I don't really care, and I'm just going to go out and do things, and whatever's going to happen, and that was more individualistic. I think other countries, especially I think in Europe, were much more, this is us, it's a common good, we're a family, we're a community that comes together, and we need to protect each other. There's much more of that kind of ethic.
Social safety net.
Social safety net, right?
We're talking to Dr. John Clark from Prime Care, our good friend, and we're going to move on from COVID. We got a little guess. Have a little music.
I do.
I think we've got the girl from Ipanema over there.
I believe Nora Jones.
We're going to save her, and we've got a little guess.
Vince Guaraldi.
Or Vince Guaraldi, my bad. Let's do a little bossa nova and cast your fate to the wind. You are listening to Raising the Standards, the Internet's finest hour.
Anywhere.
Vince Guaraldi and Cast Your Fate to the Wind from Black Orpheus. Talking to Dr. John Clark. You mentioned while we were chatting during the tune about vaccinations and polio. The Salk vaccine, since that extraordinary breakthrough, where are we at in terms of progress, and where have we made the most progress in medicine these days?
Yeah. So
other than BMW sales are up.
Yeah. So polio is like one of the big successes of modern medicine.
Yeah.
So it used to be, the. Let me see if I can get this here. So I did part of this as part of this Ollie series that I did over at CSUMB just last month. But the illness was described in like 1789, and it was endemic in the United States in the mid 1800s. There were literally millions affected worldwide.
Really?
Millions at 1900. The virus was identified by contagion, or germ theory came up in the late 1800s. They actually identified the virus in 1900, basically, or 1908. And, March of Dimes, came up. That was FDR and the March of Dimes.
Which was FDR's, yep.
Right, so they started raising money, and they developed this vaccine. The first vaccine was in 1950. Jonas Salk's, that was actually a guy named Hillary Kaprosky. Then Salk came up with this vaccine in 1955, and then they came up with this live oral vaccine, the Sabin vaccine, and that's the one that they did throughout the country. By 1988, there was only 350,000 cases worldwide. That's down from millions. That was basically 80 years before. And then in 1994, the Americas were declared free of polio.
Free.
In 1994.
Unbelievable.
No polio in the Americas. And in 2017, so we're talking just, what is that? That's 7 years ago. There was worldwide, there were more vaccine cases than wild cases, right? So live vaccine, some people get a little bit of polio from the live vaccine. And in 2022, there were 22 cases, 22 worldwide wild polio cases on the planet that we know of. 22, down from millions, basically like 100 years before. That the amount of human suffering that was prevented by that vaccine program is staggering. Is absolutely staggering.
Well, as going back to the question of what's similar to that have we done, or are we in the process of doing? And it certainly begs the question the relative association of money to cures. If I gave you $10 billion, could we cure cancer?
So couple things. So there are a lot of successes in the 21st century. The 20th century. Vaccines was one of them. Huge successes in multiple different vaccines, like antibiotic treatment. Huge success in helping to treat infectious diseases. But even just like sanitation, basic sanitation, it was huge in saving tons of lives. We also developed some sort of modern pharmacotherapy, which has helped us with like blood pressure and cholesterol and diabetes, which has reduced a lot of cardiovascular disease. That's a big success from the 20th century. And then, just from illness in general, there's been a lot of safety, like worker safety, driver safety. That has saved a lot of suffering and a lot of lives. So, those successes are something that really we need to, as we look forward in the future, we should continue those, right? Let's not forget that. Let's not do things to hurt ourselves, right? Smoking was recognized as something that was terrible. Excessive alcohol use was recognized as something that had a lot of negative health benefits. We've really tried to address those, especially with smoking, with a lot of success. So those successes we should continue in the future. As far as like what's up and coming, what are the game changers coming up? Well, there are a few actually that are coming up that look super promising. There is
Parkinson's.
That's related. So one of them, I'm talking not just about particular diseases, but therapies. So immunotherapy is a big one that has a lot of promise. Basically, what that is, especially against cancers, your immune system is trained to recognize things that aren't you, bacteria, viruses, and kill them. Well, it turns out your immune system also recognizes cancer cells as not you and tries to attack and kill them. So your immune system actually protects you from cancer as much as infections. So they've been able to try to use that and develop immunotherapy where if you develop a cancer, you actually they can try to boost your immune system against your particular cancer with your particular immune system, and your immune system goes into the cancer and gets rid of the cancer. That has huge promise for the cure of cancer. There's these CRISPR DNA, or CRISPR C9 technology, which is basically a way of editing genes and be able to put genes in to cure things like sickle cell anemia or other genetic disorders. That has huge potential. It's currently being developed. There are some of the other ones that are upcoming would be 3D printing of organs.
Really?
Yeah. So you can 3D print like your teeth. You can 3D print whatever you want to do. Well, it turns out organ transplantation. You have to wait for something bad to happen to somebody else, and then you're going to get their organs. Well, it turns out if you can 3D print the structure of an organ and then populate it with cells that do whatever function you want, then you can transplant that in there. Well, suddenly you've opened up the ability to replace, kidneys that are failing, livers that are failing, even maybe hearts that are failing. So you can begin to do this organ transplantation, and part of that's through this sort of 3D printing idea. This is up and coming kind of technology. So those are like a couple things that come to my mind. Nanotechnology also is, using, to develop treatments and things.
I think it's interesting because not so much, but some of it is generational in terms of the culture. Where you talk, Rachel, about your uncle having gone through everything he did. You talk about the lines out the door of kids in the 50s for polio vaccines. That might have been part and parcel of the war and realizing somebody's trying to take care of us. And then things go well for a long time. We start distrusting government. Now all of a sudden we're questioning people do question whether we need vaccines at all.
Yeah, I think, some of that is we're the victims of our own success. Yes. So, like measles used to be this disease that killed lots of people really sick. Polio made people sick. We've developed these really successful vaccine programs, and so I've never seen measles. Maybe once I saw measles in my entire career. Most people don't see measles, don't have measles, so you're going to get a measles vaccine. Well, why do I need that? Measles isn't around. Why are you getting a polio vaccine? I have people ask me, why I'm needing a polio vaccine. I'm not going to get polio. It's like, well, but it's a worldwide thing. It can come back. So people have stopped getting vaccines. We're seeing more sort of vaccine reticence. And guess what? We're having a measles outbreak right now. So people coming into the country or people who are not vaccinated, measles has come back. And even this year, over the last couple of months, there's been this big measles surge. We've seen some polio.
Are there more television spots for what's the terrible disease that you break out? Shingles. Then there are cases.
Yeah.
Because it's like the tail's wagging the dog.
Yeah, shingles is super common, so I diagnose it with regularity. So it's out there. So I don't know if that, probably the shingles vaccine, people are pushing that, and maybe they're on parity as far as people getting the shingles vaccine and the amount of shingles out there. But here's the thing, shingles, it's a bummer. It is a bummer. Very painful stuff, but it's not going to kill you.
Now, is this the one, if you had chicken pox as a
So,
kid, you won't get shingles? Is that correct?
No,
or the other way around?
You
could
are
get
at
shingles.
risk of getting shingles because the virus that you got as a kid lays dormant in your neural cells in your spine and then gets reactivated. So, yeah, that's the one where you're basically boosting your immunity against chickenpox, basically, that kind of varicella, and helping to prevent the shingles from coming back.
Rachel, did you have chickenpox?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
So you could get shingles?
I could.
Yeah. You hear, if you're hearing the coughing and the sneezing here, we're live at Ward 7 in Tividad today.
I thought you didn't. You had that talk about
I thought you had.
You didn't get
chickenpox.
Chickenpox.
Oh, I had chickenpox.
Oh, you had chickenpox.
I had chickenpox, but not monkeypox.
Okay.
No monkeypox.
That was.
Well, the monkeypox, you'd have to have we talked about having the smallpox vaccine. And so Michael and I got the smallpox vaccine, but you didn't because we had cleared smallpox, and that's what would have protected you against monkeypox. But chickenpox is actually not in that viral, even though we use the term pox. It's in a different viral family and stuff like that. So
Rachel and I were talking when we knew we'd scheduled you last month to be in the air. We were talking about let's hold his feet to the fire. And we were talking about and you have been refreshingly open and honest about the fact you're not happy that it's an assembly line. Medicine's become an assembly line endeavor where you get 15 minutes to get them in, get them out, bill them. And I shouldn't make that light of it, but you're not happy with it. But I guess 20 years ago, it may have been longer, remember the full body scan was a big deal?
Yeah.
Was that of value? And B, is a blood test, I mean, all of a sudden, is there a way to know if you've got something life-threatening like a cancer or something by a body scan that you wouldn't know by taking a 6-month blood test?
Yeah. So this brings up the question of screening tests.
Right.
And
they were expensive at the time, as I remember.
Fair warning, there's a little statistics that's coming your way right now.
Okay.
Because you need a little, I'll try to go over it pretty quickly. But so here's the idea. So to be a good screening test, that means to screen a population for some sort of illness, is an extremely high bar. Extremely high bar. So not only does the disease have to be prevalent enough in your population for you to make screening worthwhile, but you have to be a sensitive test, which means that if a person has the disease, you run the test and it's positive. But you also have to be a specific test, which means that if somebody doesn't have the disease and you run the test on them, it's pretty good about being negative. So no false positive, no false negative. So it turns out there's no test out there that is 100% sensitive and 100% specific. And what you're talking about, this full body scan, so it depends on what we're trying to screen for. Let's just say I want to screen for solid tumors in my body. Turns out if you do a full body scan, you can actually find with pretty precision sort of dense things that aren't supposed to be there in your anatomy.
Which you wouldn't find if you were to just take a blood test.
Right. So, and this has been the problem with lung cancer screening. So we can actually do these CT scans and find these things. The problem is that we found when people are talking about, and they used to, they literally opened like shops on a corner with a CT scan and sold you a full body scan. There's a couple of things. One, super sensitive, not specific at all. Turns out when we start CTing, you find all kinds of things in people, little box of deep things here. And most of those are not cancer, and we would never have found them if we didn't do the CT scan. But guess what? If you say, "Well, we're gonna CT you for solid tumors," and you just say, "Oh, hey, we found this thing in your pancreas," what's going to happen? Well, you're either going to stick a needle in it and do a biopsy, or you're going to get another CT scan. Well, so the other thing to be a good screening test is you have to have your screening test not hurt people.
Yeah.
So it turns out full body CT scan, ton of radiation, your lifelong risk of cancer just went up by just doing the CT scan. So you're going to hurt people by doing it. And it's actually fairly expensive.
And not covered.
And often not covered. Yeah. So it turns out it's a terrible screening test. And the other thing, and this is the most important thing, is you got to be able to pick up whatever disease you're looking for early enough that you can make a meaningful difference. Like there's a therapy out there that you can access that makes a meaningful difference in the disease. Well, when you add all those things up, there are precious few good screening tests out there. So full body CT scan fails because it's not specific, it's sensitive but not specific, and it does you harm, and it's expensive. And a lot of things you find, even if you did find cancer, you don't find it early enough that you can make a difference.
When you graduated from medical school, you first started your practice, and you would do a blood test, you would look for 10, 12 things, that you would check.
Screening. You're talking about screening test.
Just a blood test. You check cholesterol. You check. Okay. Yeah. Has that number of things that you're screening for gone up dramatically in the last? No, it's still the same thing.
No, it's pretty much the same thing. So usually blood tests are metabolic screening. We're screening for metabolic disorders like diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol. There are some cancer markers like PSA for prostate cancer screening that you can do blood tests. Turns out there aren't a lot of good blood markers for cancer screening. That may change. There was just an article that came out, I think this month, where they were looking at colon cancer screening with a blood test.
Okay.
That was actually pretty good on the sensitivity and specificity. So it may be the colonoscopies are now out, or the stool test, that there may be a blood test, but it really hasn't gone up particularly high.
That's interesting. Now, I'm going to say a line that whenever I say this in front of my friends, they go, really? That I've never had a colonoscopy. And you have said, yeah, do the other test.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That begs the question: is it a scam or is it?
So so colonoscopies used to be all we had to do colon cancer or something derivative thereof. They developed the Cologuard, which is a DNA test plus looking for blood in the stool,
and that's equally.
It is if your risk, and it depends on your risk. If your risk of colon cancer is not increased because you don't have a family history, because you never had polyps before, things like that, it is about the same as getting a colonoscopy.
Okay.
So
a good deal less invasive.
And a good deal less invasive. Having said that,
I've had one.
Have you had it?
Yeah, just putting it. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I had no drugs.
You mostly don't remember it. Yeah.
No, and I had no drugs.
Yeah.
I was in there. I was in the hospital on an emergency, and they just did it. And
just for fun, hey, you're here. We may as well stick a scope.
Yeah, I said, okay, cool. But I just have to, that's the one thing I tell people. I know the prep is like the worst part of it.
Yeah.
But whenever I talk to someone who's scheduled to have one, I was like, I had one. I didn't have drugs. You're going to get drugs.
Yeah. But remember, so colonoscopy
the cameraman is very tiny.
They're tiny.
So it's a procedure. So there is, when we talk about screening procedures, more risk to a colonoscopy of complications in the procedure than getting a stool test to look for that. So you have to kind of put that in there too. So I'll have some people who are older that are on blood thinners and things. It's like, it's one of the risks of colonoscopy is bleeding, and they're like, what's the risk benefit? It's like, look, I would do the Cologuard. It may be a slightly less good than colonoscopy, but your risk, you don't have the risk of bleeding and things that can come from a colonoscopy. So risk benefit, everything's risk benefit. You always have to be kind of individualizing that.
The risk of nightmares is off the table.
Yeah.
So those are good as well. So you have what are we doing time wise? All right. You know what? We're going to save liner notes till next week, so we're fine because I'm enjoying talking to John, as we all are. So you just finished this lecture series.
Did.
But it was in Monterey, right?
Yeah, it was the CSUMB,
so
California State University, Monterey Bay.
Did you take a Carnival cruise to get there so you could write it off and took 2 weeks? Or I'm just shocked that you did something locally.
Yeah, well, because I got to do it. After office hours, I got to go over there and do it, and I didn't have to go so far. But hey, if anybody wants to send me to some Tangiers or something like that, and have me do a lecture series, more than happy to do that.
In fact, I'm particularly looking for Prague this year.
Yeah. But it was an outgrowth of I do with medical students residents. At Natividad Medical Center, I do this art and philosophy and medicine series with them, and it's part of their education. It's a little extracurricular, but a lot of people expressed interest in it. So OLLI, the Osler Lifelong Learning Institute, a lot of colleges have this where they will take local professors or local people who are knowledgeable, and they'll have them do a little short course.
Right.
Berkeley has that. CSUMB has that. Stanford has that. So they'll try to use the resources to help with the community. So I, said, hey, pitched this kind of to them, and I did a course during 2021, I think, which was right in the middle of the pandemic, and I did this other one about contagion, which was kind of a look back at the idea of contagion and what we just went through with the.
And these are very cool because they were open to the public.
Open to the public. There's 20 people. Most of them are retired, but very active mentally and really interested in learning things. So actually, one of the folks that came to the series was the librarian. She was at Natividad Medical Center, and she was. And I recognize you. I just don't know where you're from. It's like, oh, it's the librarian at Natividad. It's like, oh, you ran the medical library. It's like, I know. And she was like this great resource of information.
You and I spent lunch one day talking about that you were doing a series of working with doctors, and I'm saying this as a layman, but what was essentially working on bedside manner and helping doctors understand that the loyalty in terms of honesty, in terms of empathy, goes both ways.
Yeah, I think medicine is a practical art. And classically there's a practical art, the liberal arts, and the fine arts. Liberal and fine arts are the humanities. So medicine is a practical art, tends to be very scientifically focused. And you spend the vast majority of your time learning about biochemistry and physiology and medications and pharmacology and whatnot. Next to nothing for me, hopefully a little bit more recently, although not that much, talking about sort of the art of medicine, right. The humanism of medicine. I mean, it's always out there where, of course, we want to be good and compassionate, but just we don't spend time doing it. So that's why, in some ways, I put together this course on art and philosophy of medicine, and we look at how, the portrayal of illness and healing in art, and also talk about philosophy. Galen, one of the great luminaries of my profession, is a Roman doctor, was famous for saying that the best doctor is also a philosopher. So, I mean, you're dealing with things like life and death. You better be somewhat philosophical and thoughtful about what you're doing. So, and there's just so much information to know that a lot of that humanism has sort of got crowded out by all of the other stuff. And so we've been trying to develop something to keep that going.
And despite taking the oath, you are doing harm by not taking a humanist approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, so you talked about the sort of industrialized medicine. We've sort of industrialized ourselves, right? Yeah. So we're machines, and you're going to go to the doctor, you're going to get worked on, and you're going to go through this conveyor, and out the end you'll go, and you'll be healthier the other way. And so it kind of makes you feel like it's mechanical. It makes you feel like a machine, or doing these mechanistic things for fixing your blood pressure and whatnot. But the things like, I am terrified that my forgetfulness might be Alzheimer's dementia. Yeah. There's, it's like that becomes not an official thing that's talked about. If the doctor would like to talk about that with you, and you happen to have a sympathetic doctor, maybe we'll talk about that. But that's not really what we do necessarily. That's not structured in there per se. And so you have to kind of, sort of create that within the doctor's visit. And there's just not a lot of dialogue about it. And I think there should be a dialogue, both in not just in medicine and lay people, to do that. But we need to sort of support the idea.
Rachel, I don't think I've shared this with you, but we had a comment from a listener. You wonder why we do this. I was so proud of this. A gentleman wrote, "Hi, after listening to the show, I felt like reaching out to you and Rachel to comment. I am a care provider for my wife who has early onset Alzheimer's and really looks forward to your shows. Thank you so very much."
Oh,
isn't that nice?
That's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. She too was. No, I'm not going to fog joke. But yeah, isn't that sweet?
That is sweet.
That's nice. But people like to be, I think, more than the part of the culture now that feels that they have to be heard constantly. I think people need to be listened to, so more than being heard.
Yeah, and one of the worst things that's happened in medicine recently is the electronic medical record, right? So now your doctor hides behind the screen and is typing on the screen as they're trying to talk to you. Patients hate that. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you're on your computer. It's like my kids. It's like, I'm talking to you. Why are you on your phone? It's like you go to your doctor. Well, I'm here to talk, but you're clicking away on your computer. You're a distracted physician. It's like that you've interfered with this relationship by having this technological thing come between you and the patient. I think we in medicine need to deal with that. Like, how are we going to deal with this whole we're submerged in this electronic medical record, but how do you put that into a humanistic practice? You have to...
And do it in 15 minutes.
And do it in 15 minutes, because that's what we need to economically make things go and make money, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And doctors feel that as much as patients. I mean, doctors are like, I want to spend more time talking to my patients, but I'm not going to pay me money. I have to do this amount of time. I've got to carry overhead. I've got the people saying that my productivity is not good enough, and blah, blah, blah. So...
Rachel, how long have you worked? It's 12:56. Hey, can we? 12:56. We don't do this enough. You need to get back in the studio. I know you're busy. At least you don't need to get a passport
always
stamp.
Make time for you.
You do. Yeah, no matter where on earth you are. It's like, where's Waldo?
That's good.
John Clark from Prime Care. The hour just zoomed by. We certainly appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, no
It's always good seeing you. And we got an A train. Are we okay time wise? Yeah. You know what we'll do next week? We'll play a couple of liner notes next week. Okay. That'll be fun. But I should very quickly tell you that next week, my friend Marlo from Unchained, which is the group that works with dog and trains, it was great fun to chat with her. Also, someone. I'm trying to think. Aaron from the Preserve, which is a marvelous country club, and then on the 13th, the Veteran Transition Center, Lisa Kincaid will be here to talk about the work they're doing with veterans. As always, The show has been for Mark, for Georgianne, and for you. Until next Saturday at noon here at Santa Cruz Voice and anytime on Spotify when we once again raise the standards. I'm Jacoby. I'll see you soon.
You should take a train. You get to where you're going in a hurry. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Now it's coming. Can't you hear the rails go humming? If you should miss the A train.